Well, it is when you're the class clown in a school full of ninjas. Take it away.
In Hidden Leaf Village, the art of ninjutsu is a way of life. For centuries, peace and prosperity have ruled the land, but it wasn't always so. Local legend speaks of an evil spirit trapped within a young boy. His name, Naruto. Hated and feared by other students, he dreams of one day becoming head ninja. But getting there isn't gonna be easy, cause Leaf Village Academy is no ordinary school. Classes are tough, everyone's a bully, and any test could be your final exam. Fortunately, this class clown's inner demon is about to graduate. Naruto, coming this summer. Confront your enemies.
Hello everyone, I'm Delix. So, 15 years ago is when Naruto launched on Cartoon Network, and man, that was such a good time watching Naruto as a kid. And I've been wanting all year long to make a video about this because it's part of Naruto's history, just like it is with any other mainstream anime that was airing on Cartoon Network during that time. So Naruto back in the day blew the hell up on Cartoon Network. I remember there was at least 4 Ninja Naruto marathons at the time. And I remember when Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Naruto and Bobobo was announced. God, looking back, Cartoon Network was such the shit back in the day. Amazing shows back then, Toonami, the anime at the time, and Studio Ghibli films being aired as well. I never really liked today's Toonami due to schedule changes and how things just operate today in age. And Toonami in general, in my opinion, is no longer needed. Yes, it's very fun to still watch it, but I don't really feel like staying up until midnight when the program starts to air. I liked it better when they started with Naruto at 9 o'clock, and then everything else after that was anime. Do you guys remember Mayor, Zatch Bell, Prince of Tennis, IGPX? Does anyone remember those shows? Megas XOR as well. Back then, in my opinion, Toonami allowed anything related inspired by Japanese culture on Toonami. And even back when the original Teen Titans was airing at Toonami, that was for shit too. Even back with Ben 10. Back then, in my opinion, Toonami allowed anything that was action-packed or had an anime style. It was always on Toonami 15 years ago. And I miss that about Toonami in general. Now then, the history of Naruto, it really blew up during that time. And around 2009, people were blaming Naruto for killing Toonami during that time period because apparently Cartoon Network was running in debt because they couldn't license any new shows anymore, and that's why we went to live action back in 2009. Apparently they put all their budget in promoting Naruto, which was on the platform for at least 4 years, including the fillers, 4 or 5 years. And apparently they put so much money into Naruto, they couldn't invest any other shows on their network anymore. And that's why we were going through live action during that time, because Naruto was such a success and they invested all their money into it. They kind of just broke themselves. I'm not sure that is true 100%, but it was stuff people were debating about back in 2009 and 2010, that Naruto as a whole killed Cartoon Network and Toonami, both. And I can kind of see that. The dubbing for those series, Zatch Bell and Mayor, they were canceled because of the success of Naruto. The success of Naruto was so big in the early 2000s, where the other animes, they weren't getting enough ratings, and apparently they dropped them, while Naruto as a show and the dub kept continuing because it blew up worldwide. And it's just amazing how popular and loved Naruto was as a kid. You know, people who grew up with it between the age of maybe 12 or 13, or even younger, my age at 8 years old, it was the shit watching Naruto every Saturday night. And I don't remember a lot of my reactions as a kid, because as you get older memories start to fade away while your subconscious is accepting and developing new memories within your mind. It's part of growing up. You can't remember everything. And it sucks because I wish I can remember my original Naruto reactions as a kid. But God, it's been 15 years and a lot of shit has happened since then. But I'm just trying to take you guys back to memory lane a little bit, because the success of Naruto during that time it was like a one-time experience, and I'm glad it came back during 2012 and 2013. I wasn't there watching at the time, because at the time when I was in high school, I was living in Texas with my aunt, which we had no cable, and naturally, I actually forgot about Toonami. I forgot about Naruto coming back and Toonami coming back as a whole. Looking back at high school, no one really talked about Toonami. Hey, like, did you watch the last night's episode of this or this? None of it like that. Even though I didn't have cable during that time, none of my friends were talking about last night's episode on Toonami. It's like that was forgotten immediately. But back as a kid, everyone talked about it. I'm not sure what happened between that time. During that time period, a lot of people were hyped that Naruto, Bleach, and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood was coming back. Black Lagoon apparently was airing during that time, which it would have been heavily censored. I'm glad I watched Black Lagoon uncensored, but on Toonami, they censored Revi with the word fuck. That would have been a different experience. But I'm just saying, during that time, I wish I was a part of 2012, 2013, 14, or even 2015 when Toonami was airing. But I didn't have cable, and no one was really there talking about Toonami, and that made it more easier to forget about Toonami was a thing, because nobody at high school was talking about it. I didn't have cable, and I started to get introduced to the internet and watching anime there. And it was a positive, I guess, because I started to realize that you can watch anything on the internet. And back when I was 15, I actually paid attention to the internet more and how to understand a computer, because I grew up with everything on television like most people. There wasn't really like a lot of access on the internet to watch anything back in the day, you know. So even though I was living without cable for like 4 years, it made it easier to understand how to access the internet and watch all of your shit on there, because I didn't really pay attention to computers like that. Like, I played it as a kid on CartoonNetwork.com, but I'm just talking about like watching anime in general. That was not even a thought 15 years ago. So I'm glad in 2012 I started to understand that you can watch anything and not just always rely on cable. So I'm glad Naruto came back during 2012 and 13, like I mentioned, but I kind of feel like it was more special to be there when it was first airing on Toonami 15 years ago rather than a second time. Yes, Naruto was uncensored more in 2012/13. I get that much, but still, there's something about having the first experience and being one of those legendary kids that were able to watch and grow up with Naruto on television, because it was a special place in my heart. That's where I started. I grew up with Naruto, with the show, the games, the cards, the Storm games, and it all started with Toonami 15 years ago. And looking back, I couldn't even ask for anything more. It would have been great to watch it during high school, but looking back as a kid, I don't think I could replace it. You know, Naruto was where I started. It was the shit. Me and my friends would always talk about it. Play the Naruto Ultimate Ninja games, not the Ultimate Storm, the Ultimate Ninja. I played Ultimate Ninja 3 before, you know, part 1 of Storm 2 and 3. Ultimate Ninja was a classic. I didn't play the original or part 2. I just started to play Ultimate Ninja 3 in 2007 and 2008. And God, that game was the shit back in the day for PlayStation 2. But all in general, man, when I look back, I'm so thankful that I had my childhood, even though I can't really remember everything of Naruto as a kid, because I was like 8 years old when it first aired. And as I got older, I started to remember more of Naruto at the age of like maybe 10 or 11. But I'm talking about when I first started Naruto at such a young age. God, it would have been amazing just to go back in time and just relive those moments, because I can't really remember a whole lot of that time period. But I do remember some things. Like, I remember when Naruto was releasing his first time going into like the Naito State versus Haku. I told my mom, I don't want my TV taken away next week, because there's a special episode coming up. And she was like, as long as you're good, you can have the television. So I'm glad I remember little things like that. Some episodes I can remember, some episodes I can't. But God, man, it's like back then, 15 years ago, I would not replace it, to be honest. It was such a great experience watching the Naruto openings. The best one as a whole was Flow or Go. You know, the one that says "We are the fighting dreamers." God, that is basically the best beloved Naruto Part 1 opening of all time. That opening was so hype back in the day. And I actually enjoyed some of the filler openings. They weren't as good as the original canon ones, but still, the soundtrack and the openings back then as a kid, God, it was such an awesome experience. And I'm glad they were airing the fillers, even though the fillers is what pulled the plug on Naruto in 2009, because they weren't, you know, getting the same ratings as the canon. And I remember watching the last episode of Naruto in 2009. They just randomly pulled it from the television. There was no final premiere of Naruto, no. They just ended it in 2009, and then we went to the live action shit. And I'm not saying it was Naruto's fault for getting, you know, Toonami and Cartoon Network such a hard time between 2009 and 2010. But if that is the case, it's not the show's fault. It's Cartoon Network for investing all of their money into one show. It's not the show's fault. It's the company that spent all of their money on the one particular show and didn't have enough money to budge other shows. You know, that's on them for a business perspective. Just because the show is really popular, it doesn't mean you should invest all of your fucking money into one show, because that was on them, man. Like, it doesn't make any sense to blame the show for that. And then back in 2010, two shows finally saved the network, which were, you know, Adventure Time and regular show. But I'm just saying, during that time, a lot of people were blaming Naruto for like destroying the network and killing other anime shows because it was so popular, even more popular than Dragon Ball. Because Dragon Ball, I remember Geekdom saying like 3 or 4 years ago that Dragon Ball had a hard time selling merch and stuff because it was not as popular. But Naruto, out of the big three, was more inspired by Dragon Ball than the other series. And I feel like Shonen Jump really was pushing Naruto to make the next big Dragon Ball series, which they clearly did in the war arc, which really pissed off a lot of fans. But I'm just saying, in general, I feel like out of the big three, Naruto was the more popular because Bleach was airing on Adult Swim and One Piece had some dubbing issues. Bleach was still popular, but I kind of feel like since it came on so late, kids like me, we weren't able to like stay up as late because of school. And when Bleach was airing, I was like in second or third grade at the time, and I watched Bleach randomly. And if I woke up randomly at 12 in the morning, Bleach would be on, but I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't there specifically, but I remember Adult Swim re-airing Bleach back in 2010, so I was able to grow up watching Bleach from the very beginning all the way up to 2011. Because that was good that they decided to re-air it for people who started Bleach at a young age but didn't really grow up with it. So when I was at the age maybe between like I think 13 and 14 is when I actually started to actually comprehend and remember Bleach, because Bleach first aired on Adult Swim in 2006, and I was 9 years old at the time. Naruto came out a year before, 2005, when I was 8. And yeah, that's just my history with Bleach. I'm just glad that Adult Swim gave Bleach another shot, because I was there for Bleach in my teenager years, but not in my childhood, you know. But yeah, man, I just want to just go back in memory lane a little bit. Like, 2005 was the shit. Of watching anything back then. The original Naruto, Bubble Bell was hilarious. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, even some of the classic Cartoon Network shows that were airing. The original Teen Titans, Cole Lyoko, my personal favorite cartoon, which I have reviewed. Stuff back then shows were so creative on the network. And I'm glad Cartoon Network gave a lot of people back in my time the best childhood, because the programs of those shows back then had a lot of heart. I don't like cartoons today. I've already said this multiple times. I like both cartoons and Japanese animation. I'm a fan of both. I'm a fan of both animation styles. But I'm just saying, back then in general, Cartoon Network really had like a program that was meant for kids to just have a special place to come to after school. And the network that were airing so much stuff, Maguzi, Tanami, the Friday night show with Tommy and Tara, like back as a kid, man, 15 years ago, that was the shit, man. I won't ever forget it. But I just want to do a quick throwback to 2005, because I believe 2005 all the way up to 2007 was probably the best of Cartoon Network relating to anime and action shows. Because as you know, action shows nowadays are dead because they cost too much money. But I can't ask for anything more, man. That was the fucking shit as a kid. I miss watching Naruto as a kid. I'm glad I had my childhood. I'm glad that's where I started, even though I don't really remember everything of my reactions. But I can't like take away the fact that's where I'm from. I understand that Naruto is much hated today, but I'm one of those people that can really respect what Naruto accomplished at the original series. The themes, the openings, the fightings, the actual soundtrack, like everything back as a kid watching Naruto, that was probably the best I've ever felt about Naruto. And as I get older and watching it nowadays as an adult, I appreciate it more, but I understand the show a lot more now because I'm older. But I feel like when you're a kid, you just think of Naruto as a really cool show. It had action, it had fights, and etc. But when I got older, I started to really appreciate what Kishimoto was going for. And because of that, because I'm older now, I'm able to appreciate Kishimoto as a really great writer for what he did for his characters. But yeah, there's a difference between just watching a show as a kid and thinking it's the cool shit, and then as you get older, you're like, wow, Naruto's actually better written than I thought as a kid. It's not about action, it's also about character writing and the philosophies of these characters, and I really relate to these characters as a whole, and I love them even more now as an adult. But I just want to say that's my story of 2005, 15 years ago. Naruto was the shit back in the day. That's all I want to say. I'm Delix. Subscribe if you want, and stand as you're weird. Bye.